Well, thank you, Megan, for the introduction. Like she said, I'm Matt Bailey. Really appreciate the opportunity to come and tell our story as a group. We were asked to go right before lunch, so we're aware of that. We will keep this as painless as possible. And please, I have note cards. Anytime we want to deviate from those, any questions that come up, like she said, please feel free to ask. This is going to be pretty informal. None of us are professional speakers, as some of you are, so just help us out and play along. So thank you. We were asked to be kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of the issues you guys have been talking about the last couple of days are issues that we as producers deal with daily, and this is one of the success stories for Nebraska. So we definitely jump at the chance to do that any time. So, and also, like I told Megan, I am the kiss of death for anything electronic. We were having a little bit of issue with the projector as we came up here, so again, bear with us. So here's a quick snapshot of our terrain. As you can see, the Shell Creek is a relatively large watershed for Nebraska. Stretches all the way up from Newman Grove, which is where Mark Sire is from, clear down to Schuyler, which is where I call home. 110 miles long, 5 counties. Poor water quality was probably the biggest thing for our area. The quality of the water was poor enough back in the early 70s when the districts were being drawn. Nobody wanted it for the NRDs. We don't know exactly how Lower Platte North got it. Maybe Daryl's got some history on that, but if it was paper, rock, scissors, if they drew straws, we don't know. But we've been a partner with the Lower Platte North since then, and it's been a great partnership, which we'll get into after a bit. But erosion was also the biggest factor to some of the poor water quality. Some farming practices, just the general geography of the creek added to that too. It was pretty common for people to farm right up to the creek. When we started, it was real common for people to say they lost 2 or 3 rows of cropland every year, and they were thinking nothing of it. Sitting here today, that seems silly, but that's how it was. The terrain is different in that up in Mark's neck of the woods, the creek actually starts as, I'll call it, a road ditch, and the kids are able to jump in there with their hip waders. And when you get down to my area, it's a very large beast, and we'll see that more in a bit. It was named for shells. Right here, thank you, Vanna. 100 years ago or so, you would see shells like this up and down the creek. And you'll be welcome to come down and take a look later, catch us at lunch, whatever. But you'd find those up and down the creek everywhere. That's how it got its name. As the quality of the water degraded, shells and mussels such as these, needing pure water, clean water, went away. Not to spoil the happy ending here, but the shells are coming back. So there again, that's why we're here bragging, basically. So the picture you see up to your left at the top there pretty much says it all. The picture you're looking at there is in Lindsay, Nebraska, which if you recall from the map is towards the top, I'll say maybe the bottom third of the creek. That is from the flood of 1990. In Lindsay, there is a manufacturing plant. The creek came up fast enough within, I believe it was 20 minutes. They told all the workers, get your cars out of here, the creek is coming. In a manufacturing plant such as that, they can't just drop what they're doing, somebody will get hurt. So those that weren't able to get there found their cars in the Shell Creek Bridge after the water receded. So if you can imagine what that looked like at the top of the watershed, you can imagine what it looked like at the bottom of the watershed. There's newspaper clippings in the background there. I'll just say it was bad. And that was the catalyst that brought everyone to the table. Darla Jewell was a UNL grad student. She needed a project to complete her master's degree. She was definitely the spark to get us going. She had several meetings at Schuyler, Newman Grove, and Lindsay, just trying to get people together. There was coordination with the NRDs for several watersheds in Nebraska. And basically, 12 of us agreed to come to the table. 8 of us stuck with it. There was, I'll say, at least 2 years, if not 3 years, of flip charts, setting goals and objectives. In fact, I think most of us still cringe when we just hear that or see a flip chart in the background, because it for a bunch of producers that are not used to sitting in meetings and just wanted to fix the crick right now, it was pretty painful. But it was good. All of us came to the table. When we started, say, late 90s again, a lot of the conversations that were had between Mark's area and my area were, for him, or his geography, was just get the water off of us as quick as you can. It's flooding, we need it out of here. Our geography was flat, not as hilly as his, and we wanted them just to keep the water to themselves. So there was a difference there, but as a group, we were able to put that aside, look at the watershed as a whole, and come to terms. So that was huge. So basically, as a group, and led by Darla Jewell and some other government entities that were helping, we were able to make a plan. Basically, we began just beating the bushes, talking to neighbors, seeing what kind of programs could we put together, what's feasible, what would you do if money wasn't a problem, if time wasn't a problem, and you had the equipment to do it. Not trying to be Santa Claus, but let's get real, and what are the roadblocks here? So our assistant manager at Lower Platte North has a good line. How do you eat an animal? How do you eat an elephant? One piece at a time. Well, the Shell Creek watershed, being as big as it is, was definitely an animal the size of an elephant. And so what we did as a group, with the help of several folks, is break it into manageable chunks, starting up at the top and working our way down towards Schuyler. That gave us an opportunity. As a group, we knew which farmers we needed to talk to, the movers and shakers of the area, who would do what, and really make that grocery list of things to accomplish. Segments identified on land use, conservation concerns, and potential use of conservation practices. What do you want if we could pull this off? So Lacey Sabatka's here. She put this list together, and we were brainstorming, trying to come up with all the people that helped get us from point A to point B, where we're at now. We had to put the "and many more" at the bottom, because honestly, there are countless people that helped us. Lower Platte North was probably leading the charge, keeping us on task. Department of Environment and Energy, Nebraska Environmental Trust, probably two of our biggest partners as far as funding goes. The stuff they've let us accomplish is absolutely amazing. So Nebraska Extension has been huge. Part of our mission through all this, when we're asking questions, was to educate people. They were absolutely essential in putting together several open houses. We did field days, take people out to fields that had been continuous no-till for several years, just to see the progress. Very good presence out there. NRCS, definitely helped us out as well, specifically the one in Platte County. EPA, again, with the funding. Nebraska Game and Parks, all these people, Pheasants Forever, Prairieland, RC&D. I know they are now no longer functioning, but they were huge. So, and again, being a bunch of producers, we needed people to help us mind our P's and Q's. We knew all about filling out balance sheets and stuff for the bank, but really nothing about filling out grants. So, and here's one of my favorite ones. This is where I can pass the baton on to Mr. Mark Sire, and you can listen to him for a bit instead of me. So, Mark?
It's great to be here today. It's neat to be asked, as Matt said, to tell our story. We are very proud of where we're at, but we also understand we still have a long way to go. There are still a lot of problems within our watershed that are needing attention, and we'll talk about some of those here yet this morning also. I want to make sure that I introduce the students specifically. We have Eliza here today, who's been with the project for how long? 2-3 years? Okay, in the Schuyler schools. And then we have Xander Jarecki from Newman Grove, who's been with the program. He's just a freshman coming in this year. Going to be with it for the next 4 years, right? I've been with it already for a couple of years. So I guess I want to point those out because that's what my part of this is all about, is the students. Back in 2002, one of my colleagues, Gene Wissenberg, who was one of the founding members of this organization, came to me and said, do you suppose that you can find some students who are willing to give up their summer vacation to do some work that needs to be done in collecting data out of the Shell Creek? And I said, well, no problem. We got lots of kids who want to give up their summer vacation. Right? Well, yeah. We have had a lot of students have given up their summer vacation to do this work. And one of the questions that I hope later on you might want to ask them is, why are you doing this? And I guess I could probably summarize it in a couple of words. All you got to do is find students who care. All right? That's all it takes, is students who care. And then, of course, you got to give them a lot of resources so that they can do something. And that's been the Shell Creek Watershed Improvement Group. That's been all these partners that have been mentioned here. I've given them the resources to do something with it. And then the very last thing that I found that has made this thing work and made it perennial was the fact that, okay, now that they spent their summer in the muck, sometimes up to here in the bottom of the Shell Creek, there's a lot of that in there, digging up all this data, then somebody has to care on that other end to do something with it. I found a lot of summer projects that go on that the students get all excited about, all right? They get all fired up about. They find out all this neat stuff, and they're done with finding it out. And guess what happens with what they found out? You're all correct. Nothing. Nothing ever happens with it. Those projects die really, really fast. They won't be back next year. And so what's kept this going is Daryl needs to be introduced there too with our NRD, and Lacey and Will with our NRD, is the fact that the NRD then asks these kids once a year to present what you found. Tell us what's going on in the Shell Creek. and then do something with that data. And that's what brings them back every year, is they feel like they're making a difference. And that's all it takes. They'll be back over and over and over again if they think they're making a difference. So I just wanted to make sure they got introduced, because that's what this is all about, is the students. So you can see there that the Watershed group prioritized education outreach. A big part of that, it was somewhat self-serving, because as they incorporate all these new farming practices that they felt would make a difference, how do you know if a difference is being made if you don't know where you're at? You got to have a baseline. So the students' first job was to establish that baseline, so that as these farming practices were incorporated, we had something to measure against. Are we making a difference or not? And so that's where it began. And as I said, the students found out that things over time could change. And that's the other thing is patience. I think the very first presentation that these students gave to the NRD was one of those things. This can't be a one-year project. It's got to be a 20-year project, all right? Otherwise, it's going to take that long. This creek didn't get to this point in a couple of years, and we're not going to change it in a couple of years. Well, this year is year number 20 that these kids spend in this creek. And there have been measurable changes happening that I think maybe Matt can talk about as we conclude here later on. So Newman Grove, we kind of started Newman Grove and Schuyler were the two schools that began here. We have been joined by Lakeview also this year. So we actually have the entire watershed from its headwaters to its confluence with the Platte being monitored by students right now. And believe me, when the producers out there see the kids in the summer out there, we always get stopped. All right, what are you finding? What are you finding? And the kids will explain, well, this is what we're finding. And now it just makes a difference in what they do when they see the students out there. It just does. They're always somebody stopping and asking them, what are you finding? So it's led by, right now, I've kind of moved it. It was a science project when it started, and right now it's also an ag project. Our ag program has looked at it and said, whoa, this fits right with our natural resources class. And so now we have the ag program involved, and I think Schuyler has the ag program involved, and Lakeview also has the ag program involved. And I see that's where the future of this is through the ag programs in our schools, with the science program being providing the technical part of it. But we'll see. Again, that's for the next 20 years as we look ahead, I think. So it's high school students in that are collecting the samples, making the measurements. I've taken quite a bit of pride being my job from now on, Xander, is to do what? My job now is to provide you materials and to do what? I think I try and say it over and over again. Supervise, and I drive the bus. All right? I drive the bus is now my job, because it has truly become a student-led thing. They would be disappointed if they didn't get to do it next year, because it's their project. So to try and get that across here a little bit, I'll see if I can mess this thing up. This is a link to our website that has got all of the data all of the information from the last 20 years is on here someplace. It's just a matter of finding it. This is our home screen that kind of a little bit about how we got started, and also it continues on into the explanation here a little bit. But I think the best part, I'll start with this first, is the video. And Nebraska Loves Public Schools has come out twice to do videos on our project. And I think probably the best video here is the one on the follow-up, because it combines the first video with the second video a little bit. So this is about 10 minutes. So I just think they did an excellent job. He has too. Really? You know why that is? Were you at the training? There you go. We showed it at the training. We start with this every year to try and give them a background of what they just signed up for. So,
that way, Jake, just about a foot. Now, go about an inch deep and about a foot. And then bring it up.
And then bring it up and see if we got anything. John, you can do the same thing
bring
there.
it up.
I did go back and look at sites 1 and 2 today. We will be able to get in the water at 1 and 2. Now, it's not pretty. It's a lot of mud. You're going to need the hip waders.
This is my home territory. I grew up on the Shell Creek northwest of Newman Grove, and it's always been our creek.
The Shell Creek Watershed project has always been part of our school for a long time.
We started the Shell Creek Watershed project back in 2002.
We could see an increased erosion and flooding problem, and we just got together and decided that we ought to do something about it.
They wanted to try and make some improvements in the farming practices along the Shell Creek, and they felt the only way that they could know whether improvements were being made is if you know where you're at now.
My biggest responsibility is usually keeping track of data and running the chemical tests.
Yeah, we have 9 different chemical tests that we do.
I'm the nitrate guru, have been since I started.
One of the first stages we go through when we first start in the month of May is teaching, because we had a lot of new newbies is what we call them this year. So we had to teach them all the different tests we do. The pink ones don't count, but the darker purple ones do here.
And the blue is another.
People appreciate what I do, and it's fun. There's a lot of memories that we make here.
If you're ever going to get students excited about science, they have to be out and do it and discover things that are not known yet.
I'm definitely going to be back next year after I graduate and be still continuing the project.
The Shell Creek is a stream that runs through 5 counties and covers almost 110 miles of Nebraska ground. It drains more than 300,000 acres of the farmland surrounding it. The land surrounding the watershed, as well as the water itself, has suffered from the high atrazine levels.
Atrazine is a herbicide that is used in corn production to keep weeds out of the field. So it's a real important contribution to crop growth and profitability in agriculture. But there was atrazine levels in the stream itself that were unsafe for virtually any use.
So the Shell Creek Watershed Improvement Group was founded in Newman Grove in 1999 to identify and promote needed conservation practices within the watershed.
The Shell Creek has been on the impaired waters list for quite a number of years, and that was due to the fact that atrazine was running off into the stream.
110 miles of this creek that needed remediation, needed cleanup to get atrazine out. And it was not the EPA, it was not government officials that got together and said, we need to do something about that. It was landowners in Nebraska to say, we must take ownership and do something about it.
I remember exactly where I was when I heard.
It was actually at an NRD meeting.
Well, I usually don't read emails till the evening, and Albert Traylor sent me an email personally, and then I had a couple of phone calls that night.
I think I was on social media.
My mom gave me a call and she's like, hey, did you hear?
Well, I got a text message from Matt Bailey.
I was sitting in chemistry class, and before we started class, Mr. Sire is always like, do we have any old business? And then that's when he told us.
This is the first time in the state of Nebraska and nationally that a watershed has been taken off the impaired waters list for atrazine because of an environmental management improvement plan like this one.
It was an amazing feeling, and not just by me, but by the rest of the Shell Creek Watershed Improvement Group. the NRD board. And when I came back and talked to the students about it, they were very excited. Again, they didn't know a lot about it then because we didn't know that was a possibility.
I'll be honest with you, I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd see a day like today where we had made such an improvement within the stream in such a short amount of time.
This is a big team effort to get to where we are today. It involved a lot of different groups, from high school students at Schuyler and Newman Grove to the EPA, to be able to make this happen.
Under the guidance of the school science teacher, Mark Sire, and the agricultural instructor of the time, Gene Wissenberg, for 2 days each month from May to August, approximately 20 Newman Grove high school students, which is nearly half of our high school, volunteer to collect samples and measurements to determine the water quality of the Shell Creek watershed.
After we have collected all summer, the students then put together a PowerPoint presentation and give that report to our local NRD and to any other community members who show up to hear what they have to say.
I am originally not from Newman Grove, so to be honest, when I was first asked to jump on board and be an advisor for the Shell Creek, I really didn't have a passion for it. I didn't really care strongly for the Shell Creek. It's when you get out here and you see the students testing the water and you see the actual learning experience that they're getting that you really start to develop that passion and start caring for the Shell Creek.
It was eye-opening to me as a high school student because we would go at just different times of the summer, and sometimes we would go out after a big rain event, and seeing the impacts of on the water after that big rain event was eye-opening. And just connecting those dots as a student to see, okay, that's erosion, that's runoff, and here it is right before our eyes, and looking at the data that was showing us that too.
Which is
That's a left one.
This is a left-hand snake.
Oh, yeah.
Many of you are probably wondering why so many students are willing to come back and help with this project. Not only is it fun, but it makes us feel something, I don't know, unexplainable. Personally, it means a lot to me to give back and do my part in making a difference. Everyone that has ever been a part of this project has learned things that they have taken with them for the rest of their lives.
I am a high school science teacher. I did not think I was going to be a high school science teacher. I thought science was something far from my mind at the time. It wasn't until science classes in high school that kind of got my interest in science. And then I started looking towards medical field. And then eventually that led me to being a science teacher.
I'm currently a fisheries biologist in the state of Nebraska for the Game and Parks Commission. I'm currently stationed in Kearney, Nebraska. I went to high school in 2008 in Newman Grove. I really didn't have any clue on what I did and no sense of direction. Then with Mark Sire being the teacher that he is and setting his stamp on a lot of us, it really kind of set the stage for us to advance our careers. A lot of the same work that I have done in high school, I currently do today.
I am a registered nurse. I work in a critical care setting in a hospital in Omaha. I think it definitely taught me to get involved in something bigger than just myself. Being involved in extracurricular activities that affect not only what I do on a day-to-day basis, but my community and my surroundings. Also, I've taken that over into my nursing field. I've gotten involved in many other projects that the hospital does. I want to make a difference in my community and not just in my own world.
I'm a fisheries technician at the North Platte State Fish Hatchery with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. Brought me to where I am today. I graduated from Newman Grove in 2008, went to school at the University of Nebraska Kearney. I'm actually currently going to school right now, finishing my master's in fisheries biology while I'm working for the Nebraska Game and Parks. And a lot of that is due to the work that we did on the Shell Creek.
As a member of this group, I'm excited to tell you that we have over 15 years of solid data collected and analyzed by this group. The data is used by the local natural resource district and several groups hired to improve the creek's quality. Between the Shell Creek Watershed Improvement Group and the Newman Grove High School research team, you can see people have become more aware of the issue and continue to implement practices that will help conserve our stream.
The students were great. First of all, they found the niche that they could play. You know, as students working in a community, they're not the farmers, they're not the decision makers on the land, but they found a place, a role that they could play that really helped them learn about water quality and make a contribution to the watershed.
The work of the students and the volunteers involved in this watershed project would be really hard to calculate, but probably in the hundreds of thousands of dollars if the state of Nebraska had to come in and do all this testing and all this legwork that the students do and that our volunteers do.
I'm a born and raised Nebraskan, never left the state and never plan on leaving the state. I'm hoping to make my impact right here because it's our home. This is where we're from. So this is where we grew up. These are where our families live. This is where a lot of people's kids are going to be starting to take over the farms and everything else. So it's really important that we clean up this area because this is the area that we live. And if we do it here, it shows other people that they can do it where they live too if they want to.
Thank you. I think, like I say, Nebraska Loves Public Schools did an outstanding job making us look really good, I guess. But it's been neat. Okay, now I need to go forward here, though. Oh, wait a minute. I need to go back now and show how much am I at on time. I teach school. I could spend days up here. Okay. All right. Total left chat. All right. So some other things I want to show off of our website. One of the things I'm also quite pleased with or proud of this, Chris Poole at the Lower Platte North NRD has been very instrumental in helping us to put all of our data into current technology, into a GIS format here. So I kind of want to show that off a little bit here. All right, so we'll go to this right now is our latest endeavor. We keep trying to add new things to it each year, and what we started this year was doing well water testing, which fits really well, I think, with what this summit is about, with the health aspect. The NRDs do a really good job of testing for nitrates in our wells, but Daryl, which wells are we testing? Irrigation wells, which are quite deep. This is not the water people are drinking. So we started this year, the students started testing, let's see, I want to probably go to hybrid imagery here. We started testing 20 wells around Newman Grove, drinking water. All right, we asked these people whether they'd collaborate with us and allow us to sample their water and see what they were drinking. And they said, what are you looking for? Obviously, they're concerned about what are you testing here? And so now it becomes an education thing, not just for the students, but now the students go out and explain, okay, we're looking for nitrates. Well, what's the effects of that? And they have to try and explain that then to these people. And we had good cooperation this year, like I say. Let's see, let's magnify that just a little bit. And you can see these dots right here. Let's go, see if I can go one step bigger here and still get these in. Right here. Well, these, and if we then go to, no, we'll put that one in there. All right, if we pick out this well right here, then, for example. Now, let me get back to, maybe I'll be able to make this work. Right here, in this well, then here we tested in November, December, January, February, March, and then here is the average for nitrates in that person's well, and they said, okay, that's not bad, that's not bad. And 0.9 parts per million is a pretty reasonable number. And then if you go to, and I'm going to need to magnify this a little bit bigger yet. Move this over just a little bit more. To some wells like, I'm having a hard time finding the dots. Here's one right here, I think. Well, yeah, right here. And we see that we're up to 5.74. And the students then explain to them, okay, that's what should it be? Well, obviously we'd like it to be 0. But it's not. And the limit, of course, we want is 10, and we explain that to them, and it's their decisions what to do about that if they choose to do anything. I'm going to change this back and get this back to here where we can see the dots a little better. But you can see we can go ahead and I hope I can get that back. To which one of these do I want? On base map? Topography. And I can see the wells. Well, I'm having a hard time. Technical difficulties here. But we had a well that sits right on the edge of Newman Grove, right about in here, where the test came back on our test was 30 parts per million. And we said that at 10 parts shouldn't be drinking over that. She has 14 little grandchildren that come over a lot and drink that. And she has her daughter's pregnant quite often drinking that. And she became very concerned about that to the point where she put in reverse osmosis. And we checked the well not more than 500 yards away, and it was less than 1 part per million. And so then it became a detective story of why would that be? Well, we found out that over 50 years ago, that was a feedlot that they built their home on. And so we are assuming that that's why their well water is so high right now, and the neighbors around aren't. Would she have been at all concerned about her water had she gone to NRD and looked at what the nitrates in our area are? Probably not. So I guess right now we're considering this to be a very big health service to a lot of people. And we've had since this time a number of people bring their well water in. Well, what's mine then? Because I heard Becky say that their water was this. And so we're going to keep adding wells to this program, and I think that should be a good public service, again, of students feeling like they're making a difference in what's going on. Some other things we have here then is all of our surface, all of our data from our surface testing is also listed on this site. And we then also have a hook to the USGS monitor by Columbus so that they can compare that with that. We've got, these are all of the presentations that the students have made for the last 20 years, the PowerPoints. This describes how the water quality index is determined. We've done quite a bit with macroinvertebrate studies also, and we're adding a little more to that this year of, okay, what's living in the stream and how does that relate to what the water quality is. We've also done some flood studies when we had, back in the 90s when we had some problems there. I was telling Matt on the way here, I had a student look at this, all this dirt traveling downstream, asking, well, how much dirt are we losing here? He was able to calculate a rather surprising number during this flood, that if you take and you dry this down, he'd take a sample of water, dry it down, get the amount of dirt in there, that in 1 hour and 20 minutes with the water going under that bridge, you could fill our gymnasium, including the seating area, with just the soil. That caught the attention of some of the producers. So wait a minute, I paid fairly good money for that going down the stream. And of course then, well, whoa, what are we going to do about these erosion problems? That's another thing I have found, and I don't know, maybe I'm talking to the wrong audience there, but these students have been extremely good messengers for this thing. I know that the government entities, we go out as government bodies and we tell these people and we tell these people and we tell these people, it's hard for them to relate. Yeah, they kind of feel like we have an agenda. These kids get up and give a presentation and they got their attention. They really do. So I really feel working through the schools has been a very positive thing for getting the message out of the issues of this creek. We've also had some fish studies have been done. Those two students you saw in the video who are now with the Game and Parks, they did the fish studies. That was their passion, and they spent the whole summer finding out what the fish were in the creek. We've got pictures, thousands of pictures in here. This is this is a little quicker deal to the well testing thing. Explains that little project that we're doing right now. Plus, it's also then got all the layers in it of all of the different surface sampling that we've done. And then we've got, again, the participants. This is a list of every student who has participated in this over the last 20 years and how many years they participated in it. And if you add up all these years of participation, there's a lot of years of work that these students have put in. And again, as one of the people mentioned, if we had to pay for all that work, it would have cost a lot. These students have basically become unpaid interns for the DEE, which is fine. They've provided us with all this equipment that we're using. We're right now doing bacteria, helping with the bacteria studies in the Shell Creek, because that's our next thing we're tackling is bacteria. And they provide us all the equipment, and we provide them with all of the labor, and it's a win-win situation for everybody involved. Also, then we've got some of the publications. We have had the students help with a number of publications that we've gotten out there. Some of the sponsors that have, I think Matt has gone through a list of all of the sponsors that have helped us out. So I guess to summarize here, one of the big things here is civic responsibility. These people now, there's a new buzzword out there, citizen scientists. I hope that's what we're creating with this, is citizen scientists, people who now understand the science a little bit and will become active participants. I think it's turned into a vocational thing too. I really enjoy the government agencies allowing these students to come in and saying, oh yeah, I could see myself doing that. We went and toured the DEE's new facility here in Lincoln, and some students saying, well, yeah, I could see myself working in those labs, or working with NRD people. Yeah, I could see myself doing Lacey's job. You know, not that she wants to take it by any means, but here would be a heck of a candidate for that down the road. Again, I guess I thank you for your time and attention and for listening to our message, and I'm going to turn it back over to Matt and let him figure out how to get back to where we were. Okay.
Nope. We got a few more slides. Yeah, we can. I was going to say we can stop for a minute for questions if somebody's got something to add. How are we doing on time? Ballpark. 15-ish. I've got about 3 slides. I do want to say, 20 years ago when we started this, kids were not on my radar at all. Wasn't married or even looking to do so. Now having my oldest daughter doing this, it is pretty cool to see it start from the start with Mark and Jean, and now my oldest being part of it is absolutely amazing. So, not to swell her head or anything while she's sitting here. So,
can I interrupt with a quick question?
You bet.
So, first of all, what an inspirational story. I was just wondering, I see you pointed out some publications that you've made. You've obviously told this story before, and if you've got a great video to show it. Has anyone else replicated this project that you're doing here? I mean, it just seems like the rest of the country needs to know about this and hopefully replicate it everywhere.
Yeah, I do think that it is something that could be. There's not a school in the state of Nebraska that isn't in a watershed and that has a stream or water body close to it. Part of the problem, I think, in putting this into the schools, part of that is getting, you find the teacher every now and then that wants to do it, but okay, I need to support a family and buy groceries too. How am I going to get paid to do this over the summer? And so at my school, I've been very fortunate that my school said, yeah, you're doing good things with kids. We'll pay you to do it over the summer, and we'll give you the transportation to do it. And again, the cooperation with the NRD has helped tie this all together. But that's where I think, in my opinion, if this is going to be replicated in other schools and be something that can go out there, I think it's going to be through the ag programs, because a lot of the ag instructors have extended contracts that will allow them to do that over the summer without giving up their own personal time to do it. So that's my vision for it, is to be part of our ag curriculum through natural resources. But yeah, I was approached by the Department of Education, same thing. Can't we get this all over out there? And I'm saying, well, I'm trying to tell our story as best I can, but it takes, the schools have to accept the liability, the transportation, and the personnel. And I don't think the NRDs are going to have any problem helping with and the DEE has been very good to us, providing us the materials to do it. But it just needs to be that combination.
So if you remember the slide previous where we listed all of the people that helped us, all the government entities, and many more at the bottom, that's why we hesitated even putting a list together. The school systems were a part of this. Even the shirts we're wearing, there's a printer out of Platt Center that did that for us. That it's been an amazing partnership. So, and more questions, not to jump into this again, but I know lunch is coming, so, okay. The next couple slides are basically part of our scoreboard. Over the last 20 years, we've had 240 landowners sign up for projects, be it big projects, small projects, everything in between. There's 340 conservation management practices that we've helped out with. And again, very proud of all that. A couple pictures of some of our biggest projects. The one on your left, encompassing most of the screen there, is, we call that our Kramer project. The landowner that owned the ground was Dan Kramer. What you're looking at there is a big sweep, and as it approaches the county road where all the vehicles are at, there's an older county road bridge. What we did is, obviously there was a lot of erosion. It would head right towards the creek. There were gullies washing off the field. What we did is stabilize that stream bank to help save the county road's bridge. That was the start of one of our bigger partnerships with the county. That brought a lot more people to the table. Pretty big spotlight on us. We, of course, had to go through 404 permitting. That's a whole nother story, but that was an eye-opener for me. Good project. I'll talk more about it in a bit. The other project, or just examples of stuff that we did, upper right hand, no-tilled corn. If you notice, that's no-tilled into existing corn stubble. As a producer, I can tell you that's kind of a pain. What we did to help get that going, we would offer, I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but here's a $25 an acre incentive for you to go try this. It's a controlled experiment, but the farmer would know that we've got their back. We would, if you bid on that, we could include, and again, I'm just throwing numbers out there. I don't remember the exact dollar amount, so don't quote me on this, but say another $10 an acre for non-invasive nitrogen application. A lot of times guys would just slice in their anhydrous, disc it, put on dry fertilizer, whatever, and again, use tillage to incorporate the nitrogen. With this system, there's no way to do that. So if you need to go to the co-op, rent a machine, if you want to go buy a machine, here's another carrot that we dangle in front of you to make that happen. We'd also Couple that with agronomy services if you wanted to hire somebody to help you manage your stand, manage your nitrogen, do soil samples, tissue samples, whatever you needed to get this going is what we were doing. So, and again, on the lower right hand there, that's an example of some terraces and sediment basins that we helped cost share with. So, pretty pictures, big stuff. And putting the shell back in Shell Creek, I can't say that without giggling a little bit, Mark. I'm sorry. It is super cheesy, but it is absolutely true. I mentioned at the beginning, Eliza's got the shell there. We found that after the 2019 flood. The thing that's unique about that is that we found old ones. This one was alive. It was, of course, dead when we found it, but you could tell it had been alive prior to the flood. So we know we're moving the needle. The governor stole my thunder. Yes, we got off the atrazine impaired list. And yeah, that was a big deal. I do remember texting the entire group and had a heck of a turnout for that. So, continued improvements. This is what we're doing right now. If you look at the upper one there, 2019 flooding, that is the Union Pacific Bridge. Just about, I'd say, less than a quarter mile away from where the Shell Creek dumps into the Platte River. What we're doing there now, after the 2019 flood, they were willing to come to the table with us, the NRD, all of our partners as well as Colfax County. We made a big project out of it. You can see on the next slide, that's the start of it. Doing some stream bank stabilization. What the UP did for us is basically we told them what we were doing, what we thought needed to be done. Colfax County was telling them what they were doing on their county road bridge. We were all able to size our projects accordingly. That was huge. And locally, this particular bridge is known as one of the choke points for the creek. That bridge has been in there since 1926, I think is what's stamped into the concrete. They need to do something, we need to do something. Because of all the stuff that we did before, we're prepared to do that. So. And there we are. I guess definitely a very genuine, sincere thank you to everybody and giving us the opportunity to, like I said, just to brag our efforts up. I think part of our success comes from not forcing anything on anyone, being the local voice, trying all these improvements on our own farms, and basically leading the horse to the water. The funding was there. The people were all there behind us, willing to support us. We just needed a conduit to get there. So, with that, I will shut up. And any questions, anything, we told the kids we wouldn't put them on the spot, but if you have a burning question, we can try. So. Oh yes, we made sure of that.
Well, I wanted to put them on the spot. I wanted to ask them what their favorite part of the project has been while you've been involved.
Ladies first, Liza.
One of my favorite things has been just getting together with a whole bunch of kids, and we've been going in the creek, which I really enjoyed, and seeing how much it has improved just within my 4 years. I really enjoyed that.
I kind of think that it's the part of being able to work with the people you know around you to help improve the community. That's what I enjoy most.
Well, I wanted to start off by saying that was amazing. You guys have done a tremendous job, and I say that that's impressive how long this has been going on as well. I'm kind of curious, as this has been going on, there's one of two questions here. One, how much pushback or Have you had any pushback from any of the locals in any capacity? And then 2, has this changed any of your opinions in any way?
I guess I was a little concerned when I started out about what you're talking about, pushback. What are you trying to prove here? What are you trying to change or whatever? But again, it goes back to these are kids. It's their kids doing this. And I won't forget, if you read one of the articles, I think it come out of the Norfolk paper, we had this landowner stop while we were doing the testing. And he went on for 15 minutes telling these kids how it was when he was a kid, of them being able to play in that creek and swim in that creek. And I said, could they do that today? And he honestly said, no, it's not the same creek when I was a kid. And I said, our goal now is to have their kids and grandkids go back to being able to swim in this creek. And I think once we put it into that perspective, I think the people, again, the local people trust the messenger coming in. This is not a place where we'd go. Well, I remember the very first time we went out to collect, I told them to bring their old tennis shoes and their shorts. And we're going to jump in, because that's the way I played in the Beaver Creek, not very far from there. That's what I expected to find, a place where they could go play. And after the first summer of testing, I said, no, we're going to put on chest waders, and we're going to maybe wear gloves during certain parts of the year. And it's just different, and it's just a matter now of those people remembering what it was like, and, well, maybe it could be that again. Maybe it could.
When we first started, we started, well, one comment, sorry. We got when we started, we basically sent out a survey, and I know we weren't getting a real stellar response to that survey coming back, so a couple guys would just catch me in town. What's this survey all about? What are you guys doing? Well, we're just trying to figure out, we're trying to get some money. What do you guys want to happen? Where's this grocery list at? Well, we all know you're going to put up a dam. Like, okay, where are we putting up? You know, all these rumors. And I remember looking at one guy and saying, well, yeah, we'll put up a dam, and then I'm moving to Juneau because I'm going to be able to live here because my name's all over this too. So once they realize that this is us, and we are, yes, there's big federal money behind us, but we're steering the ship, things started moving a lot better. So go ahead. Sorry.
So thank you. I loved hearing the story. I really appreciate that you shared that today, and it's amazing to see the web resources that you've developed. In the video, I think multiple students mentioned being involved over time and mentoring newbies. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the student-to-student mentoring and how students have stayed involved over the years.
I find it to be very, very similar to a successful football program. Okay? There's a big deal up in the front of my room, says Coach Sire. Because if you have a successful football program, those seniors come in there and they have expectations of those freshmen that you're going to perform. We got us up to here and you're going to keep us there. So I've had quite a few years where the young lady says, I'm going to be back after I graduate. 3 years after she graduated, she would come back in the summer. She couldn't always because she had a job too. But I oftentimes will have kids after they graduate come back because they don't want these kids to let the standards go down. Are you sure you're doing this right? Are you doing this right? And that's where the student-led project. It's not my project. I did have a student once. He heard I was retiring, which I did once and couldn't stand it. But he said, well, man, that'll be the end of the Shell Creek project. If you retire, it won't happen anymore. And I said, well, the football coach left 2 years ago. Are you still playing football? Well, yeah, I guess we are. Well, why does it have to stop if I walk away? My hope is, and I think the question up there came from, I'd like to see this institutionalized some way. And again, my dream is it probably needs to be through the FFA and ag programs if it's going to become institutionalized.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that you are right there to some degree, but that's where I'm saying the science programs within the schools also need to be a part of it. And I would say that the FFA and ag programs lead it, but it's not exclusive to that. I think the science programs, it needs to be a marriage between those two. But I think the FFA and ag needs to lead, and the science needs to be the supporting part, probably. You know, I can't speak to specifically, that's a whole ecological, I can't. But as far as the stream goes, Albert Traylor tells me that the Shell Creek was declared a dead stream at one time, that there was no life in it. And the university came out in 2016, and did a fish survey, and they could not believe what they were finding in there. The game and parks, and I didn't mention this, 3 years ago, one of the students that's in the video is now with the Game and Parks. He talked out of North Platte. He's part of a program to reintroduce shells back in the mussels back into the stream. They brought out 1,400 mussels 3 years ago, and it was really cool. They got little chips in them, like dogs in these snails, and they were showing the kids, and we can find these back. We have these wands then, and they go out there now and are monitoring these shells. And I was a little concerned that the flood in 19 put them all in the Platte River. But they were out there last year and said that, we still find that. I mean, they evidently dug deep enough that they were able to hang on, and they're still there. Now, whether they flourish, that'll be determined over the, course of years now, but there are still some growing there. But they seem to think that the stream is improved enough that they should be able to. So, and I would hope it goes into other areas too, not just the stream itself. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'll just say dumb luck. No. No. Honestly, we've had enough success. So flashback towards the start, I guess it was kind of a thrill for me when the no-till contracts, when the buffer strip contracts, all that stuff was coming across our desk, and I saw neighbors' names on it. That meant something. We've got one neighbor that to this day still tills. He'll disc it at least twice and field cultivate it once for sure, maybe twice if he's got time. Seeing him sign a no-till contract was a thrill. Also, I just got to say our group is an amazing group. You saw a lot of them on the video there. Definitely no one having an agenda. When I mentioned looking at the watershed as a whole and realizing we got to do this together or not at all, that was definitely what the group accomplished.
But I think he brings up a really good point. We bring new students through every year. That's easy. They just come to us, okay?
Yeah.
But what we may need to seek out, I don't know if it's not true in your case, but some of the rest of us are getting old. Okay.
Oh, we're definitely looking for volunteers.
And we need
Yep.
we need to get some of this new younger producers
Yes.
into the Shell Creek Watershed Improvement Group.
Yep.
I think to sustain.
Yep. Got a lot of people interested, nobody willing to pull the trigger. So we'll take names while we're here. If anybody's okay. There you go. Drag them in, guys.
So, any students went back?
Yes, there are. I've got some of them there, and obviously they're not the big time operators yet. They're working their way there. But yes, there are some of those kids that graduated 15 years ago that are now producers, and they would be likely candidates for getting them into the adult side now of the Shell Creek Watershed Improvement Group, and we need to work on that.
Tell them they're in. Don't give them an option.
Yeah, right.
Say you're in. Congratulations.
Yeah. You're president.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
We probably have time for one more question, if anyone has one.
My question is, do you think studying in 2019 or
So, Mark and I were talking about that on the way down here. If you look at focusing on the flood in 90, which was kind of our benchmark, that's where we started. If you take the rainfall that we got, and it was a perfect storm up and down the watershed, since that time, we have gotten several rain events that were actually worse than that. Certainly nothing like 2019. Was it better? Yeah, probably, but 2019 just was terrible for everybody. But according to the rainfall models, we should have had a 1990 flood several times between now and then. So looking at, I'll just pick on Platte County, was huge in tillage. We moved the needle there from maybe 20% no-till up to over 70% no-till within, I don't remember exactly, 5-6 years. So all those no-till incentives that we talked about definitely helped, and I think the infiltration that comes with no-till and just slowing the water down was huge for flood reduction. So. Okay.
All right.
I think everybody's hungry.
Thank you guys so much. That was wonderful. Thank you to the students for coming.